Alright, hey guys, and welcome to another video of general understanding, and this is Vig7 here. Today we're doing a Python video. So, this is an introduction to Python, and if you do not know what Python is a programming language that's one of the easiest in the world, and one of the best in the world. And so let's get started with that. And so today I'm going to be using the program Visual Studio. Windows machine and Mac, same thing, you can install it if you want to. And so yeah, let's get started. So the prerequisites for this course is that you have Python 3 and Python 3 installed, and you have Visual Studio or just any other program installed. Just be mindful that if you're not using this code, you may have some difficulties while some of the key steps in these coding tutorials. Alright. Let's get started. So, first, I don't know if you know stuff, but when you first download VS Code, you're going to see a welcome page, you're going through tabs, you're going to cross them all out, and I just want to focus on these blanks. So you're not going to see this. You're not going to see this stuff yet. You're going to see a spotlight template, but you're not going to see that yet. One more thing that I just wanted to make sure that you understood is that you want to make sure that Python is installed and that you can link Python with the VS Code editor, right? And that you don't need to do that, just in case you need to, or you've already been using this before, just to make sure that you're doing that. Alright, so let's get started with our first file and first Python program. So, keep in mind, this is a part 1 of the Intro to Python tutorial. I'm not going to be teaching you a lot of things today, so be mindful that there's going to be more tutorials, and this is just like the basics, like the bare bones. So first you want to go and click this file button right here, and you want to go to open folder, and you can store your Python files in whatever folder you want to. I just made a new folder called Python Vids, short for Python videos, and we're going to include some of our videos in there, right? And our tutorials in there. So I have that opened up. And you see I have these two files in here. This is app.py, this is nav.txt. I can just, at this point, delete these two files, move to recycle bin, do the same with this one, move to recycle bin. Alright, so this is just what you're going to be seeing, You've got whatever your file's name open up, and you've got your path and everything set up. And so now you're going to start, and you're going to be wondering, how do I start the file? So you've got a couple of icons here when you let this go down. And the first icon is going to be new file. So you want to press new file. In this, you can type in whatever name you want to. So I'm going to type in app, because that is like a standard procedure. Like making a new file in HTML is going to be index.html, etc., etc. Alright, so in this, now I'm going to add the extension .py. And you see that icon popped up. Now that icon is actually the Python logo, and when you type in .py, Visual Studio Code recognizes this as a Python file. So whatever you type in here is going to be Python code, right? And it's going to take it in as Python code. Okay, so at this point you could be typing in burger.py or whatever. Just remember you have to put in .py. At this point you can press enter, and there you go. You have a Python file. Now this is something that you're not going to do, alright? It's not, you don't have to do it. You don't do it, right? This is just for the tutorial purposes. I'm going to make a txt file called nav.txt, and I'm just going to, be outlining some of the lessons we're going to be doing throughout this course in this nav.txt while doing the actual code in the app.py, alright? Alright, so let's get started with the Python code. So you may have heard, if you've done a little bit of research, that you can write your first Python code within minutes, seconds even. And that's true, so bear with me for a second. I'm going to write some code that may look like, gibberish to you, but just bear with me. Type out what I type. And whatever you put in the quotation marks, right? It can be anything you want to. It could be burger, it can be software, it can be Cinco de Mayo, whatever. Right? But I'm going to type in hello world because, why not? It's cliche, but whatever. Right, so you want to type the following things. Print, and you want to type quotation marks, the parentheses, then the quotation marks, whatever you want inside the quotation marks, right? And this is it. This is the first line of code you're ever going to write. It's the simplest piece of code you're ever going to see anywhere. And yeah, so that's pretty much the first line of code you're going to write. Now, let's run it. What does running mean? Well, when you write Python programs, or Python code, or any kind of code for that matter, you want to get an output, right? You write this code to get an output. Well, in this case, we're going to open a terminal window. And we're going to say new terminal, and put in your shortcut if you want to. And we are now going to run this program in this to see what our output is, because that's the whole point of writing programs. Alright, so let's run it. Before we do, I need to make sure you guys understand something. Go into File, and you're going to see down here this, I have autosave and the check mark on top. Default, you're not going to see that check mark. You want to press autosave. Why? Well, I understand that a lot of you know how to use the shortcuts and stuff, but it's really inefficient to just keep saving everything. If you have everything autosaved, it always makes the changes for you. And even if you don't want it, you can always go and fix it if you don't want that change. So autosave is best, especially when you're running Python programs using the terminal window like we are going to right now. Alright? So put that down. If you don't want to, you can just always keep saving it, but I just think that's inefficient. Anyways, so now we're going to type in the following pieces of code in the terminal. You can see that this says CMD. It's not always going to say CMD, depending on what kind of computer you're on. I'm on a Windows machine, and so that's why it says CMD. CMD is just short for command prompt, which is like the default code running software that's embedded inside Windows. For Mac, it's like terminal, etc., etc. So you may see different things depending on what kind of machine you're on. But don't worry about that. The reason it says CMD is because it wants to let you know that this is not a Python console. We're going to get into what a Python console is later on. It just means, for now, it just means that it's where you can just, you don't have to type this in the editor. You can just type it in there and see the results, right? And just so you know, an editor, what with this part of the thing, this part. The editor is basically where you can type out code. It doesn't get run, but it's a good way to organize your code and write it out if you have long pieces of code without having to restart and keep writing it painfully in these consoles. Alright, so let's run this code. Now, as I said before, we're in a command prompt, this window, and this is not specifically made for Python. This is made for any code, any software for that matter, right? And so that's why we have to type in specific language for it to understand that we want to run this app.py and whatever is inside app.py, in this case, the print statement, this part. Anyways, so let's type in the following. Oops, not this, here. Type in the following, and then type in, write Python, put a space, and type in whatever the name of your file, of your Python file is. So in this case, mine is app.py. Remember to put in .py. And yeah, that's pretty much it. What does this mean? It means that this is a Python file, this is the name of the file, and we want to run it. And that's why I had to have you guys do the autosave here, because if it's not saved, then nobody's gonna know what it is, right? Because it's not saved. They're just in the work in progress, right? That's why. And by the way, if you're on a Mac, in this right after Python, like this, type in Python 3 to make it look like that. Why? Well, because Mac already has Python 2 pre-installed, and this is a Python 3 course. So just wanted to make sure that you guys don't get mixed up with that, because this is Python 3 code. Alright? Okay. So now we can run this, press enter, and voila. So that is the output right there, hello world, of what we wrote up there. Okay? Now let's actually kind of assess and look over what has been said. Excuse me. Oops. Alright. So let's go over what this is. This is a print statement, and there's a special function of VS Code and some other code editors that if you hover over it, you can see exactly what it is. But since this is a tutorial and not just a computer teaching you, I'm going to tell you what the print statement does. So, by the way, any line of code that has print and then some parentheses and whatever is inside it's called a print statement in Python language. So what is a print statement? Well, a print statement basically prints out whatever is inside the contents of the parentheses. So, like a printer prints out paper with stuff on it, just like that. the print statement in Python prints out whatever the contents of the parentheses are. In this case, the text hello world. You may be asking one thing: why did I have to put the quotation marks? Why can't I just put in hello world like that? Well, it's because quotation marks signals text, which means you just want to print out a plain old hello world, right? Or whatever's in there. If I had not put the quotation marks in there, I would have thought that hello world actually has been defined before, but I haven't defined anything before because, well, this is the first line of the app.py. And even if it was the second, you haven't typed in any code before that, right? So the Python code does not recognize anything before that, and doesn't recognize what hello world means. It's going to think it stands for something, or it means something, right? It's like a variable or something. And that's not the case. It's the first line of code. And that's why I had to put the quotation marks to make sure that Python understood that this is just text and nothing else. We just wanted to print out the words hello world, right? And so that's why we did that. And well, that's pretty much it. In a nutshell, that's what a print statement is, and that's how it works. Okay, so in Python, remember, any kind of statement, and you put parentheses at the end, the parentheses, whatever goes inside the parentheses are the contents, or what you want that function to apply to. In this case, the print statement, this print is a function that is made to print out whatever's inside it, right? Print out the contents. In this case, we put in the contents, the text, hello world. This text is actually known as a string. A string is a type of Python data type, right? And the string we put inside the print statement. Now, when we ran the program, we told Python to print out that string. In this case, the string is hello world. Alright, so that's the first line of code. And we're pretty close to the end of this first part 1 tutorial. But I'm just going to include one more thing. We're going to talk about the most, easy, or the most, I guess, primitive in this case, data types, right? Easiest to learn. So the first data type is called object. And not to be confused with like objects, but in Python, an object is just like a regular object. Like how we call pencils objects, we call mice objects. Just like that, Python has its own term called objects, which are basically different, pretty much anything in Python, except for some few exceptions that are very specific that we're not going to talk about today, right? Objects, there are two types of objects. There are mutable and immutable. Mutable means you can change something, and immutable means you can't change something. In Python terms, an immutable object is an object that you can change or modify after it's been made. So if the object was hello world, you can change it to hi world, and the object would still be the same, right? You can just modify what's in it. Immutable objects are objects that you can't change after it's been defined, right? So, say there was an object called hello world, and you tried to change it to hi world, it wouldn't work. And if it did work, it would be a completely new object, not the same object as before. So remember, that's how Python works. Another data type is a string, like we just saw right here. And this hello world was a string. And a string is an immutable object, so you can't change it once it's already been defined. And a string basically has a lot of different, it's basically like, words, sentence, you can put sentences in it, you can even put numbers in it, but numbers and integers are another type of data type we're going to talk about now. Numbers / integers, that's another data type. And numbers and integers are just like numbers in real life. You can add them, you have math operators for that specifically, and so those are what numbers are. However, a number, if put in quotation marks, can become a string, and it doesn't have those number qualities anymore. Finally, the final data type we're going to talk about right now are variables. Now, variables are Python data type, it's a data type that, just like in real life, is a variable. A variable can be assigned to something else. Right, so if the variable is a, then you could write a equals 10, and now you just created a variable. A Python variable is just like a variable in real life. Alright, so that's all the data types that we're going to cover today, and that's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching this first part 1 intro to Python video. Please subscribe to General Understanding, and please like and subscribe to this video, and watch our other videos, and watch out for more in this series. And also please subscribe to my channel, Vig7, with the cool white and black logo, V logo. Thanks a lot, and catch you guys next time. Bye bye.